Welcome to Kings of Kimuras.
Welcome to another episode of Kings of Kimuras podcast. It's been a few weeks since you and I have done a podcast. I don't remember like the last time you and I sat down.
Yeah, dude, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
I feel like it's been what, like 3 weeks?
Probably, yeah. We had I've had a couple other guests on in like the meantime, and like everything would go good for a while, and then the last one that I have with Michael, we were recording, and then I somehow hit the not record button on the mics. So I haven't released that one yet. That one will probably be out next, but it's definitely kind of like going to be part good audio and part shit audio. So it's just part of doing this, man. No matter how many times we do this, there's still like something that always seems like goes wrong.
Dude,
Speaking
that's the joy of technology.
I got to go and adjust the lights before they cut out. So
Oh, yeah. 1 second, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, that would have been the one thing that would have screwed up today. So I'm glad I caught it ahead of time. So a lot of things going on right now. This weekend is our 9-year anniversary. It's crazy to think that the gym has been operational for that many years. You know?
Yeah, dude, it's awesome. I feel like when I joined, you know, like obviously a lot of the people that were around then, there's only like a very few amount of those people now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like totally revamped, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the same with like any gym, really. You know, I used to have this conversation a lot with David about, you know, it's not who is the best, it's who sticks around.
Yeah.
You know?
I that's something that I live by.
Mhm.
You know, I think you told me that one day. You know, it's like it's not about who's like winning and losing right now.
Yeah.
It's like it's about who sticks around, man. You know, if you can stay healthy, you can continue to have fun and improve in training.
Mhm.
That's the key. You know, all those kids that I grew up doing jiu-jitsu with,
Mhm.
I don't really know how many are still training or even like working out. You know, they probably have some office jobs somewhere.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Moeller a few weeks ago, and I kind of like asked him about a couple kids that he had that were really good competitors as teenagers. I mean, they were winning everything, and he said the same thing that I've always kind of said. It's like probably like 1 in 25 kids will like stick around and train through adulthood.
Yeah. That's actually, I think, a pretty accurate figure. I mean, obviously, he's been around for
Sure.
a long time, so he's not just pulling a random number out.
Yeah.
But I feel thankful that I was one of those 1 in 25, you know?
Yeah, I just think that, you know, as a teen, there's like so many things going on in your life that it's hard to stay focused on one thing, especially maybe if you started at 5 or 6 years old, you know, and now you're like doing it into your teens, and then let's say like you become an adult, and like, are you really going to be doing the same thing you did as a teenager? And a lot of those are not, you know.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I just knew from an early age that this is what I wanted to do. And I wanted to continue to do it. I just had such like a burning passion. I don't know. I might have had some like undiagnosed ADHD or something where once my brain hyper fixated on something, like that was it, you know?
Mhm.
I feel like video games is the same way for me as well. If I get really into a video game, I'll just like forget that other things exist for a little bit. For like those 2 hours that I'm playing,
Mhm.
it's literally like I'm locked in. You
Yeah.
know, nothing else really matters.
Yeah, and to go back about the people like quitting training, I used to have a different mindset about it of like, yeah, screw those people. They weren't tough enough or good enough or whatever. But now I've like switched my mindset of like, you know, hey, people do this for a limited time. Some of them quit, some of them come back. But if you always have that like inviting atmosphere and not be like angry that somebody's quitting, those people tend to always come back.
Yeah,
You know?
dude. Like Jared just started coming
Mhm.
back recently, and for those of you guys who don't know, Jared's the guy who trains here, and he was making really fast improvements. He's also a genetic freak. He is 6'10", 210.
Yeah.
So, and he's like 260 or 240.
240. Yeah.
Dude, what in the world? Anyway, when he was training and competing consistently, he was doing really well, like improving at a very fast rate. But, he felt like he had to take a little bit of a break, and his work schedule was kind of getting in the way of training. So we were like, yeah, man, we hate to see you, go for a little while, but we'll be here when you get back.
Yeah, it's just as a young adult, especially like in a situation like his, you really are kind of like thrown into this new life of like providing for yourself, and it can be overwhelming and stressful. Even as somebody that's like, I've been taking care of myself for, a long time, it's still like there's things that happen where you can allow it to overwhelm you, or you can kind of like, all right, this is what I have to get done, set the things in order of what needs to be done and get it knocked out,
For sure. That's the why you got to compartmentalize all these things and like time it out. You know, I used to think that people like that were really anal and like, because I was never really that organized. And then obviously as I got older and more things started to pile up, I realized the importance of actually having to do that stuff. So,
oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, and you can only get done what you can get done. I make a list, and I don't do it all the time, but I do keep a list on my phone of like, hey, these things need to get done, and I'll knock them out. And if it doesn't get done in that day, then, I add it on to the next day's list to get done. Sometimes it takes a week or a month or whatever, but it eventually gets done.
For sure. Yeah. And, it's okay to push it to that next day. I feel like so many people like, I didn't do everything I was supposed to do today, and they like beat themselves up, and then they let that carry into the next day, and then it affects that day, and then it's just like this snowball effect of bad days. But I try not to do that, obviously.
Yeah. So competitions coming up. What is your next one? Is going to be Dallas?
Yep.
ADCC.
Absolutely. I'm looking for something to do in July, because I know in August we got the ADCC American Nationals, and then Jiu-Jitsu Con I think is that month as well, and CJI too, which I want to go and support Brian from Master Worlds, but I think going to CGI too and seeing Gable versus Craig would be really cool.
Yeah, I'm like torn on that, because like I do want to watch the event live, but man, when we watched it last time here at the gym, it was so much better. Just to have that like ability to like get up and go to the bathroom easily, or my favorite part of it is like not having to travel and sleep in a hotel and like pay outrageous amounts of money to eat,
Oh yeah, that's very true. The cost of concessions at will it be at Thomas and Mack again?
It's at Thomas and Mack.
Yeah. The concessions, well, actually no, I take that back. I'm thinking of the T-Mobile Arena where we went for.
Oh,
where
they didn't
ADCC
allow you to bring
was.
food in, right?
Not only that, but the food there was like outrageously expensive.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, what is this? $20 for burger and fries, bro?
Yeah, when we went in, was it 2022?
That was at the Thomas and Mack. Yeah.
So there were guys like drinking beer all day long, because they opened at like 9 in the morning or something, and the thing didn't wrap up till like 11 o'clock at night or something. And there were guys drinking beer all day long, and each one of those beers on average was $10 at least, probably more like 15, but I mean, these guys are drinking like 3 or 4 beers an hour. Like they must have a $500-$600 bill.
Oh, just on shitty beer at the Thomas and Mack, dude. Come on, we gotta do better, bro.
And like I said, I'm torn between supporting these live events, because I think it is important that people go to those, but I also feel like I've been to enough of them now that I'm kind of over the live experience of it,
For sure. Yeah. And also having it here, it helps like promote the sport, so you're still kind of like doing your part. Like you said, it is important to support these live events, but you can still do your part elsewhere.
Yeah.
You can still have the big monitor like we had last year, and then people can like walk by and be like, oh, what is this? And sometimes all it takes is that little spark of curiosity, and that'll get people into the door. So.
Yeah, last time we had Perez come out with his gaming truck and had the TVs on the outside playing CJI, And so people were walking by the street and like, oh, what is this? And what do you guys do here? I feel like we're obviously, because we had that in Plano last year, is obviously the gym is like in a much better place now where, you know, more people have seen us for an entire year and know like what we're doing there.
For sure. I can definitely tell, like, we've had a pretty significant influx of people come by. So it's been awesome. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Gable Steveson and Craig Jones match, because I think for Gable, this is like a perfect opportunity. In WWE, when he was trying to do that whole thing, he ended up getting cut, not because he wasn't athletic enough. Obviously, the dude's athletic enough. It's the personality.
Yeah.
You know, wrestlers have a pretty tough time doing things outside of wrestling because they're so, for lack of a better term, like kind of square. You know, they don't have, there's not like much to them. They're very basic. There's not like much drama in their life or whatever. So they just don't have much personality. And obviously Craig is pretty much the opposite. He's like one of the biggest personalities in combat sports. So working with him, I think will help him in the long run. Because I think it'll help promote his brand more and help him kind of like get out of that shell, because that's a tough thing for wrestlers. Like when Kurt Angle went to WWE, they were really surprised at how natural he was, because they're like, man, most of the time these like wrestlers that come from you know, college and into the Olympics, these guys are like squares. They have no personality. But Kurt Angle came in and was like very charismatic and stuff. So I think this will be good for Gable. Obviously Craig is gonna benefit from it too, but I think Gable gets more out of it.
You think that there would be some, you know, really for all college athletes, there would be some type of preparation that they have of like, this is how you talk in front of a microphone. You know, this is
like a publicity training kind of deal. Yeah. I think the publicity training they do get is like, keep it cut and dry. Like, don't add any.
Say only positive things about the program. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Like, don't speak your mind.
Sure. Well, you think about like college athletes that kind of like had a personality. The first one that comes to my mind is like Johnny Manziel. You know,
Johnny Football.
But he was also a guy that had like come from money, so it didn't really matter to him if he like got paid or not. You know, I mean, obviously he was at the time before athletes were getting paid, but I mean, as far as like transitioning into the professional, like he didn't really care too much.
Yeah, that dude was partying and having a crazy time at A&M, and then he tried to do that same thing in the NFL. No way, man. It's a different level.
Yeah.
You know? You just
Everybody in the NFL is like elite, right? At least all the guys that are starters. And then you have a lot of guys that are like backup players or on the practice squad that are like elite players, but they're like missing one aspect of it, you know?
Yeah, they're just lacking in some area. Dude, that's crazy. I would not want to get hit by one of those guys. That's crazy that Gable tried to do football for a little bit. But dude, some of those guys are making Gable look small, and Gable's a big guy, and some of those guys are like 6'5", over 300 pounds. Nah, I'm good, man.
As you talk about the lack of personality, a lot of jiu-jitsu guys don't really have that either. And I hear Mo Jassim talk about that all the time about, you know, guys want these like big money fights, but you know, when they interview them, they all say the same thing. You know, I trained really hard for this, and you know, I know my opponent is gonna be tough, and
you gotta talk big
I'm gonna do
money
my best.
Shit.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't necessarily have to go the Gordon Ryan route, I feel like, but you have to like hype it up a little bit, you know.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like you have to, because if it's just like a friendly match between guys, it's like a chess game, you know. It's almost like there's nothing at stake. Like there's no animosity almost, and like. It's going to be like one of those matches where it's like going to start slow. It's like, no, bro, you guys got to go out there and attack each other, you know?
But I feel that's more of a American thing too, because very traditional Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is all, you know, they tout this like humbleness, you know, but I mean, I've trained with like many people that are from Brazil, and at least like during the training, they're anything but humble.
Yeah,
you know?
I was about to say, like, it's so, like hypocritical, because what's the thing that guys do when they win worlds? They rip their gi open and like,
Yeah.
and like, listen, dude, there's nothing wrong with. I like that. I think it's fine, but don't turn around and be like, oh, I'm this humble guy and like, this that. No, dude, no. Like humble guys don't rip their gi open and scream "poha" at the top of their lungs. So just be consistent. Like if you're gonna say, "Oh, I'm this humble sportsman," and like GSP, you know.
Yeah.
Like I never saw GSP. I saw GSP celebrate maybe like a handful of times. He's never like yelling and screaming, and he's always like very calm. Either be like that or be the guy who rips his gi open. But don't try to be like, oh, I'm both. No.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like having that fake humility is, you know, it can be seen through. You know?
Yeah, for sure. And then, but it's like also, I feel sometimes jiu-jitsu guys don't have like Owen Jones, for example. I think he's like has the stones to say some stuff that would make other people uncomfortable, you know, and he just like doesn't care.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't care if it makes you uncomfortable. That's what I believe. Like when he was talking to Julian Espinoza, you could tell that Julian was like not really prepared for that trash talk.
Yeah.
And Owen was just like, dude, you're like easy pickings. You're just like fodder for the wolves here. And he's like, okay.
Yeah, I feel like when somebody says that, you have to respond to that, especially in a press conference interview. You know, I mean, that's what they're setting that up for. They're not setting it up there for one guy to just like bury you in comments.
Yeah, you see some of those. I'm not gonna name names, obviously, but like, God, some of them are so cringe. They're like, you could tell that that Jake is trying to like get more out of these guys. He's like really fishing. But they're just not biting.
Yeah.
They're just not giving him like anything to work with.
Yeah,
it's so bad.
I think one of the worst times to probably get interviewed is after a match too,
Oh, yeah,
because
it's
you're
horrible.
like gasping for air, and now you like have to think on your feet of like it's, you know, it's very similar to like somebody getting knocked out and then like having to answer questions. You know, you literally just grappled this person for 20 minutes if we're talking like on Who's Number One, and now you got to go answer questions from somebody. You know.
Yeah, that's probably one of the hardest things because you're like, yeah, I, you know,
it's almost like they should do the interview, like let the guy calm down, start the next match, and then bring him over to the table, and like, okay, now we're gonna interview. You know?
Yeah, for sure, or just do it like after the whole event, just
Right.
like I have a
Post fight.
Yeah, exactly. They tried to do that at the Apex, the UFC. I think they stopped doing that, right? Because they realized how like bad it looks because
like,
the guy's exhausted.
Yeah. Well, I know for like the knockouts, I've heard them say they don't interview the guy that just got knocked out. You know?
Yeah, because Joe Rogan tried to do that one time with DC after John Jones knocked him out, and he's like crying and stuff, and it's like, oh, dude. Just go away. Like, get the mic out of his face. This dude just got knocked out. And, like, yeah, I mean, that just puts a stamp on it. Because his first fight with John was not really that close, but it was more competitive. And then, you know, the second time around, you want to do better.
Sure.
And then you end up getting knocked out. So it's like, as a competitor, that's like the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
So, and then Joe's just in his face like, you want to answer some questions? And he's just bawling.
Speaking of John Jones, did you see that video recently where it's like Nate Diaz, John Jones, Jake Shields was there, and they're in some house somewhere in California, but they're all like Chechen and Dagestanis, and there's some guy, I guess he's like
this video.
So it's like a group of those guys that, you know, over in Russia where they have a panel and they sit there and like all of a sudden somebody gets up and starts fighting the other guy.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It was those guys, and some Chechen came in. I guess he was like hanging out with John Jones the night before, and they're all taking photos, and, you know, there's cameras everywhere. And then he walks over to Nate Diaz, and he starts like mouthing off at him, and he kind of looks like that Shara Puloff guy.
Oh, the Shara Bullet?
him.
The ginger dude?
Yes, but he's got like brown hair.
Okay.
And so they start talking, and then Nate slaps the guy.
In typical Nate Diaz
Yeah, and
fashion.
the guy like immediately, obviously, he gets angry. He's Dagestani, and I guess this is his thing. Like he finds MMA fighters, and then he like gets in their face to like instigate them, so they'll hit him, and then he'll fight them back. and it kind of like broke out an all-out brawl. You see like a bunch of guys from Diaz's camp come in, and at one point, like Jake Shields hits somebody, and then he's on the ground and he's getting stomped.
Oh, shit.
And he does like a little video commentary about it, I guess, over his podcast. And he said that he realized there was like 100 Dagestani and Chechen guys at this house.
Oh,
and
my.
there's like 10 of them. And, you know, inside the house, there's like 40 people. It's a huge mansion. But he said there was like another 60 people outside. And he,
Oh, my.
once he realized like this thing could get out of hand, he started like trying to calm the situation down. But that one dude that got slapped by Nate kept like finding his way back in the group and then like hitting somebody else. And, you know,
Oh, my God.
yeah.
What year was this?
it just happened.
Oh, like
This
recently?
is like, yeah, within like this week, I think.
What?
Yeah.
I did not see this at all.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm pretty in touch with. Wow, I'm gonna have to find this video.
Yeah,
This is crazy.
I'll put a clip of it up whenever we make clips for this, but it was pretty insane. you know?
Whoa, that's nuts, man. That's. Why are you? First of all, how do you even get 100 people into one house?
It was
That's
a huge mansion, apparently.
Okay.
Yeah, Jake said, so the section that you see is like about the size of our gym, and that was like the living room area. And they had
Oh.
like chairs lined up around the outside of it. And so all of this group of MMA fighters is there, and then all these like Dagestani dudes come in and start talking to them. And yeah, it was
Wow.
bad. It could have
That's
ended really badly.
wild, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would. You just don't mess with those Dagestani and Chechen guys. They will
Yeah.
just fight you on sight. That's
Mhm.
just how it works over there. They're
Yeah.
like, if there's no like sneak talking on Twitter and like this and that, it's just okay. You have problem, we figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
We just fight. That's it. You know.
Yeah, and those Chechen, like the Chechnya of the country, is like a war-torn country, you know? So all of those people over there have like experienced war their entire lives. You know, there's always been like rebel forces fighting inside there. And, you know, there was a Chechen group recently that the guy tried to overthrow Putin. And his like whole battalion got wiped out. Like he was on a plane, and like the plane just mysteriously blew up. You know,
They just oopsie.
yeah. I think this was about a year ago. Whenever that whole Ukraine war kind of kicked off.
He was like, "Oh, this is my time," and then
Mhm.
Putin was like, "No, sir."
Yeah, that's not like of all the Russians to double cross. That is like the one you don't do it to.
Yeah,
you know?
the head honcho.
Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of don't want to mess with that guy. That's crazy that he's like a black belt in judo as well.
Yeah. I just
That's
wondered
pretty
like how
badass.
legit is that though? You know, like
Yeah.
I mean he's for sure a badass former KGB officer, and you know the fact that he's like stayed in power for this long kind of shows you what kind of influence he has in that country.
Yeah, that's true. He'll probably be in there till he dies.
Yeah, I don't know like the whole how their government works, but
It's like a fake democracy, I think.
Well,
They were
he
just
is,
like
like-
voting.
yeah,
but-
he served his 2 terms, but then he came back as like prime minister or something like that, and then like right after that term, he came back as president again. you know,
yeah.
and then he's just kind of stayed in there since.
He's just kind of been in there. Yeah. I have no idea how it works, but all I know is that anybody who tries to run against Putin just loses. Like,
Yeah, well, he has this like long-term goal that he is going to reunite all of Russia, because when Russia fell apart due to communism, a lot of these countries kind of split off, and that's like Ukraine came from that area. And so his overall plan for his lifetime is to bring all of these different countries back under the rule of Russia.
yeah, so back to the Soviet Union,
Mhm.
basically, just without communism.
Yeah, I
Almost.
think they still kind of have some communism, but there is definitely some capitalism in there. But you know, I don't know much about Russia. I've never been there. You know, we have a student. His wife is from that area, and they go, and he said it's great. You know, he liked it. Like all of the one thing that I can say is like all their grocery stores have real foods in them. You
Yeah.
know? It's not like what we have where it's all poison on the middle of the grocery store is all poisons. you
Yeah.
know?
Just Oreos.
Yeah.
Why is one of the biggest sections in the grocery store like cookies?
It's a whole
and like,
aisle.
Oreos.
Yeah.
I've seen. I was really looking at it when I started to kind of like pay more attention to what I was eating and stuff.
Mhm.
And I literally, for as far as you can see down this aisle, it's just all cookies, Oreos, Chips Ahoy, soft, hard, crunchy, like any kind of cookie you could ever imagine was down this aisle. I'm like, dude, this is why we're a fat ass country.
Yeah, I've started doing something where, like, if I do go to the grocery store, which isn't that often, I shop on like the outside, you know, like the produce and meat and stuff. But if there's something that I like want to get, maybe I go to like Central Market or something, or Whole Foods where they have, you know, healthier stuff. I'll grab a product and then I'll look at it, and if it's like this has enriched flour in it, or if it has like a dye in it, I'm like, well, just put it back.
Yeah.
And you end up like not grabbing as much stuff when you kind of like set a parameter of like, hey, this is, if it has this in it, then I'm not going to eat it.
Yeah, like even when you go to Whole Foods, sometimes like the quote unquote healthy foods will still have these ingredients snuck in there, very sneaky like.
And Whole Foods has kind of gone downhill too once that Amazon bought them. I feel like their quality is, you know, not as good as what it used to be.
Yeah, I was never much of a Whole Food shopper myself, just because my parents always shopped at Kroger.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we just try to stay along the outside, you know. Try not to buy cookies and cakes and all the desserts, but they get you right there because the bakery is right there in the front. So you smell all the fresh bread and you're like, dude, it smells great in here.
We're kind of fortunate here in Dallas that we have a store at Central Market that it's owned by H-E-B, but it's like a, you know, it's a shopping experience, really, is how I would describe it. They kind of like force you to funnel in this kind of pattern through the store. Whereas a lot of stores, you know, it's the normal aisles up and down. When you enter in, you go straight into the produce and then you follow that through to the meat section. But they do have some really like great quality stuff, but you pay more for it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's the trade-off, right? It's like, you want to eat healthier, you're going to have to spend a little more money.
That's what's so nuts to me, man. Like, they can make food so cheap, but the nutritional value of it is horrible.
Yeah.
You know?
That's subsidizing like just terrible food instead of subsidizing the food that could actually, well, that's what the goal is, right? Like if you keep the people sick and fat, they're easier to control. So,
you know, something that is like a good thing to do if you can afford to do it is, let's say you like to eat steak, instead of buying one steak for $20 or $25 or $30 or whatever it is, you just buy like a whole side of ribeyes and you can cut them yourself. And it works out to like $14 a steak, which is like, you'll never go to a restaurant and get a steak for $14.
No, never.
It's just, it costs more up front, but you know, over time it saves you money, you know, and then you're like eating a lot cleaner than what you would have, like, you know, going and getting a steak cooked at a restaurant. And who knows what they're putting on it when they cook it or season it.
For sure. But Tony, you saying I have to cut my own steaks? Yeah, dude. Don't be lazy. If you want to actually save the money, you know, it's also like a discipline thing, I feel like. Because it's so easy to just like blow money because it's convenient.
Sure.
You know, you go to the store and then you buy a steak that's already cut. Well, you're not actually like paying for the steak, really. You're paying for like the labor of the guy who cut it. So just do it yourself, and like you said, you'll pay more up front, but in the long run, it'll save you money. So
yeah, it'll cost you like a couple $100, but you save so much, man. And you know, if you have like a local butcher in your city, you can go there. I mean, you'll pay a little bit more, but you're like supporting a small business too, you know.
For sure, and you can pretty much guarantee that the quality is going to be better than something you would get at a store.
Yeah, I'm going to do something different now. My brother, he's like really into organic farming and stuff. And where he lives, there's people that sell whole cows. And so he's going to buy a cow and I'm like buying a portion of it from him. But like we're literally buying the animal and then he's taking it to the butcher alive. And then they're going to butcher it there and like package it and everything. So that'll be interesting.
Dude. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, you know exactly where it's coming from. I don't think many people could say that.
No,
they know like exactly where their food is coming from.
And it is expensive because you're buying a whole animal and having it butchered. But he broke it down to like how much you're paying per pound, it was like $4 per pound.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But you have to be this is why it's important to stay in school, because you have to do some math here. It's like, oh, why would I ever buy a whole cow?
Yeah.
It's like, well, when you break it down, actually, it makes more sense to do this than to like waste your money on prepackaged stuff.
Well, and it's probably like 2 years of food too, especially for like 2 people, you know.
Put it in a deep freeze and then just thaw it out when you need it.
Yeah.
Just go crazy. That's awesome, dude.
So I'm interested to see like how that's gonna turn out. Like, how much am I gonna have? Like, how much space do I need to store this? Too,
Yeah.
you know?
Do you need to buy another deep freezer?
Yeah, probably so. Yeah.
We should get a deep freezer for our. We just have the obviously like the normal refrigerator freezer, but I go through, obviously, being an athlete, you need protein. You also need carbs, but a lot of protein. So like the whole freezer is always filled with salmon and chicken and steaks and stuff. But they're all like prepackaged, so it gets pricey.
Yeah.
You know, I'll probably just try and get a whole slab and cut it up myself.
Yeah, I've done that with salmon before too. Like, go to Costco and get a whole like side of salmon, you know, and it's like $20 or something, and it feeds you for like 6 meals.
Yeah, whereas $20 of prepackaged salmon is like $4 of them, you know? Like, dude, when you really look at it, it's crazy. You're straight up getting scammed. You know, you're paying for the plastic and like the packaging and stuff.
There's another company that like I can't remember what it's called, but they like sell a lot of like seafood online. It might be like called Wild or something like that. But they're opening up a store here somewhere in Dallas or Plano or something. And their seafood is all like wild caught stuff, but it's cheaper than, there's like a little seafood shop in Plano I was going to. It was like cheaper by like $5 per order or whatever, you know, like significantly enough that like, oh, I could save money by shopping there, you know?
Yeah. Dude, you just got to do a little bit of research on your own, you know?
Yeah.
People fall into that convenience trap and, like, want that instant gratification. They're like, whatever, I'll spend the money just to have the convenience. But it's like, if you're just a little bit more disciplined, you can save a lot of money. But I'm still working on that part.
Yeah, one thing that I've noticed about the cost of thing is like eating out has gone up. And recently we took a trip to San Diego, and already it's expensive because it's California. But I feel like every meal was like $20 more than it is here.
That's insane, man. That's insane. That's almost like double what you'd be paying here.
Yeah, there's a place that we like to go to that has like fresh food, and I've gone there every time I go to California. And normally it's about like, you know, $18 for a meal, and it's like steak and fresh vegetables and stuff. But it was like $25 a person, and then like if you get a drink, it's like $5 for the drink. I'm like, what the hell?
Bro. Where are we right now?
Yeah.
The carnival? The state fair? Why is everything so expensive here?
And something else I didn't realize about California is if you buy glass or metal at the store, like a bottle or a can, they charge you extra for that.
Why? Is it like an environmental thing?
Yeah, you can get the money back if you bring the can or the bottle back to the store. They'll like give you your refund, but they're trying to prevent people from throwing stuff in the waste, like landfill. But you're like, you know, it's already super expensive, and now you're forcing people to pay this extra tax.
Yeah, that's lunacy.
Yeah.
No wonder people from California are saying, you know, goodbye, I'm moving to Texas. Now, here's the thing. Don't vote for stuff where we're going to have to do that here. I don't want to pay for to bring the can back to the store to get the refund is crazy. I'm not doing that, dude.
You know, there's already a lot of places here that charge you for bags to put your groceries in. I don't know how that cost is not included in buying the product, you know, like
what?
Like it's like 10 or 20 cents a bag. You're telling me you can't like add on a penny for products, you know?
Yeah.
Or half a cent or something.
Yeah, something like that. HEB, you have to like bag your own stuff, but you could just bring anything. You could bring like a backpack and just like shovel it in there.
Yeah, I try to keep bags in the car, and sometimes I just forget, and I get in there like, you want a bag? I'm like, well, I'm not carrying all this stuff out in my hands. You know?
So I kind of need that $4 bag. Yeah, I need that, bro. the shopping experience in the U.S. I just wonder how it is in like other countries. You know, obviously they have more real food in their aisles, so it's probably way better.
Yeah, I'm not sure. You know, like I haven't been shopping in other countries.
I did go shopping in London, and I will say that like, well, in the gas stations especially, there's no like Monster, there's no Rockstar, there's no energy drinks. It's all like coffee based stuff, and like lots of juices. Like even the sodas are very limited. It's like Coke and Sprite, but there's no caffeine, like no Mountain Dew, nothing like that.
You have to go to like grocery store for something like that, or what?
Yeah, and then when you go to the grocery store, you have to go to the American section, and that's where all like the crazy stuff, like packaged mac and cheese.
Yeah.
They don't have that there. That's like not a thing, because they don't even. It's not real cheese. It's like this yellow powder you put in, and they call it cheese. No, that doesn't fly in other countries. So yeah, it was pretty interesting, and if it has excess calories, you know, like in the soda, there's like a gigantic label on it that's like, if you drink this whole thing, you're consuming excess calories, basically. Now that has not stopped the people in London from being fat, obviously, but they're at least trying to be, I think, a little bit more diligent with the things that people consume, especially when it comes to like energy drinks and things of that nature.
What was the strangest part about that trip, like going there and being in another country?
It was probably the transportation, because we took a lot of trains and buses. Like we were basically going through the subway system through the whole country. And we did ride a bus to the venue, but yeah, it was pretty ghetto. Where we were staying was okay, and then as we got closer to North London, like to the Tottenham Stadium where the place was, we stopped at this one stop that was like right in front of this, basically like a smoke shop, you know, but they were selling all kinds of stuff like jackets, and it was weird. It was this kind of like all over the place, but I saw this like crackhead lady chase some random dude down the street being like, "You owe me money." And he's like, "I don't even know who you are." So that was probably the strangest thing that happened while I was over there. And I was looking at JB, and I could just see it on JB's face. He's like so uncomfortable. He just doesn't know what to do. He goes, "I just hope one of those guys doesn't come over here." I'm like, "Dude, I don't think they will. Just don't make eye contact. We'll be okay."
Yeah, that does sound weird. You know, we want to go to Japan, and so I'm like been doing a lot of research on travel and stuff. And everything, when they like list a property that you're gonna stay in, like Airbnb or something, they always say like, "Oh, it's this many minutes from this station," because everything is focused on like train transportation. You know,
Yeah.
I looked at like trying to rent a car and drive from one city to the next, and it was like a crazy distance because there are some highways, but it's like a lot of inside roads. But if you take the train, it's like cuts everything down by like an hour or something, you know?
Yeah, and the trains are really well ran over there. Like everything in Japan, from what I've seen, is like they keep it tight. You know, they're like, it's not like the subway system in New York, obviously. Like homeless people, you won't see them there. Like same thing in Korea. When my girlfriend went to Korea, she was like, the first thing that I noticed in like big cities was the lack of homeless people. There's like none. It's not that they don't exist, but it's that they're like, the city will basically like move them into not like a camp or anything, but they'll basically escort them out of the city, you know, and like into this other area. But yeah, they keep it very tight over there. They do not play around.
Yeah, I know there's like a whole culture thing too in Japan where, you know, there's an order of operations of things. Like you don't cut in line, you don't push people out of the way, you know, you wait your turn. And to talk about like the homeless situation here in the U.S., Reagan kind of like put this into place because I guess prior to Reagan, they had a lot of like mental institutions, and that's where a lot of homeless people went because, you know, most people that are homeless are not homeless because they're like destitute or whatever. It's because
like down bad on their luck or something.
Like there are people that are like that, but those people tend to either figure out a way to get back up and, end up living normal lives. But a lot of them have, schizophrenia or drug addiction or whatever it may be. And so at one point they had them all going to these mental institutions. But then once he got in president, he closed a lot of those places down. So you started seeing way more people living on the streets and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they're also doing some crazy stuff at some of those institutions. But I think I think that's important, because obviously these people need help, and taking that away from them was kind of obviously has been very detrimental.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I wonder how it works over there. Like, do they send them to like a rehab facility like that, or like a mental institution? And if so, do like most people get out, or like I'm sure there's some patients that are in there for life, especially if they're like criminally insane, where they're like committing crimes and stuff, and they're just like losing their mind. But I wonder how that works over there. I'm very curious.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a whole experience for me too, because I haven't ever traveled to Japan, so
that's gonna be awesome, dude. I'm jealous.
Yeah.
I want to go to Japan or Korea for sure. That's definitely a bucket list item. I'd love to go to Korea, like with my girlfriend. She's already been, so she kind of has like a layout, like a game plan in her head. I would just be there, like, let's just go everywhere, I guess. But she said like the mountain country over there in Korea is really nice as well, and the food over there is, one, it's like really cheap in that area, and two, they give you like a humongous portion of it. So it sounds really good. But the Korean barbecue actually over there works way different than it works here.
Yeah, they cook it for you, right?
Well, the place that she went to, she said that they only brought out like single pieces, like, and you had to pay per piece. Here it's like all you can eat. Yeah, you pay the whatever it is, $50 or whatever, and then if it's dinner, and then they bring you out however much meat you want. You just keep putting in your order, and they'll just keep bringing it out. This one wasn't really like that. It was like they brought it out for you, and then somebody would cook it for them, and then like cut it up and stuff. But I was like, man, that doesn't sound as fun as it is here. In the U.S., I think that experience is pretty cool.
Yeah, talking about Korea, obviously there's like North and South Korea, and you have let me obviously you're going to South Korea. Yeah. But you have the same people genetically on both sides of that border, but you have one country that is operated by a dictator and very much communist, and then the other that's operated democratically and has an elected official, and they're more capitalist. And you look at the difference between the two nations on like which one has thrived and which one haven't. Obviously there's like problems with capitalism, but for the most part, people can live like normal lives and be successful and raise a family. And then you go across the border north and people are struggling. They're trying to get out of there, like obviously you have people that are in power in that government that, don't want to leave there. Cause I see like videos all the time where Kim Jong-un is with, a bunch of people in the military. Like most recently, they launched an unsinkable boat. I don't know if you saw that, but they have this like crazy battleship or something that they were launching, and it was like a big celebration, not supposed to be able to sink, and they launched it and it sank immediately. So I imagine whoever was in charge of that build is probably trying to exit the country immediately.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure they already had that guy strung up just in case it did go down. Yeah. They probably already had him like, this thing better not go down, dude, or we're gonna shoot you in the face.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing to think of, that there's places in this world right now where people are living in a situation where they don't have control of their lives. You know?
It's insane. They're completely brainwashed. Like they think that North Korea is like won every Olympics and like every gold medal. That's literally what they tell them. They're like, yeah, North Korea is so awesome that we just never lose, dude. We never lose. We're FIFA World Cup champs. We won the Olympics. That's honestly kind of lit, dude. I mean, imagine just thinking your country is the best. That's kind of cool.
Back when Vice was still around, and you guys don't know, Vice was like a news source, like a alternative news source, really. And Shane Smith, the guy that founded it, he used to go out to these different countries, and he would like get a lead, and he would go experience whatever it was and kind of report on it. And he did a documentary series on North Korea, but it was he found out that a lot of these North Koreans that were arrested for whatever reason were sent to these work camps, but the work camps were in Russia, in Siberia. And so they would put them on this train, and the train is completely blacked out. You can't see out the window, so you have no idea where you're at. And whenever they get to these work camps, the whole village is decked out like North Korea. It's got like pictures of, I think it was Kim Jong-il, which was like Kim Jong-un's dad. And so they had all these like photos of him. The whole village is done up like North Korea. They have no idea that they're outside of the country. And they would work in like logging camps. And he tracked out to where, where is all this wood being sold to? And he found out it was being sold to like whatever IKEA's parent company is, and they were using that as their source to make all their products.
Whoa. I knew about this Vice documentary about him going to North Korea. I didn't know that's what he found.
Yeah.
Dang, that's insane.
Yeah, it was a pretty wild documentary because I remember him like getting back on the train like multiple times and like going to another work camp and stuff. And
how did he get on there?
I don't even remember, man. I mean,
that's insane.
It's got to be like 20 years ago or something. Yeah. Well, he was like just sitting on the train like a normal person, but I don't know like how he was able to do that. He did a lot of like pretty crazy stuff like that,
Yeah, he just got crazy ties, man. He's got the plot armor.
Yeah.
Dude, he took The Cameraman Never Dies way serious.
Yeah.
The Cameraman Never Dies.
Yeah, and he wasn't like an intimidating figure or like somebody that could like protect himself if some stuff went down. He's like a overweight dude that drinks a lot. So
yeah, I was like, he probably just like would blending in or like being unproblematic, but just got the camera with him everywhere.
Yeah, I remember Dennis Rodman went to North Korea.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Because they're like huge basketball fans. And he was saying that they took him around to the grocery stores and like they drove him down some like main street, and like they had a bunch of shops and electricity. And he said when they would leave that area, it would be like people would be without electricity or no groceries. And even the grocery stores, everything in them was fake. It was like all plastic.
Yeah, to make it look like they have stuff. Yeah, I remember we watched something about that in school, like when I was in high school, about how they have like fake grocery stores, basically. All the food in there is plastic.
Yeah.
Or like there's very few food items that are actually like real.
Yeah.
That's insanity, bro.
Yeah.
That's insanity. I couldn't imagine. But I mean, you don't know anything else, right? It's like from literally your birth, you have experienced this thing growing up. You think that North Korea is the best, but obviously most people there are struggling, so they don't think that. They're like, well, this sucks, dude. I'm hungry. We have no electricity. Probably don't have clean water.
Yeah, I wonder how you learn about other countries, because I can't imagine that they have books on history of other things that happened outside of the country.
Right, it's all like fabricated. It's probably like, North Korea is the best country in the world. And
yeah.
But it's like, if it says the best country in the world, it's like, well, are there other countries like North Korea? Maybe that's where it starts. But how do you even find this info? You have to obviously do some digging and find out a way to get some technology or something. But
yeah. I mean, I have a story about Korea. My grandfather was in the Marine Corps, and he was like in a tank battalion. And he had like served his first term as a Marine, and he went to go re-enlist. And when he went over there, the recruiter was out of the office for lunch, and so he's like, okay, well, I'll go run some errands and come back. He comes back like 2 hours later. They're like, oh, he took off for the day, he's going to play golf. And so my grandfather goes, you know what, screw it, I'm not re-enlisting. And then like, I don't know the time frame, but it was like less than a year. All of those people that were in that battalion were sent to fight the Korean War, and every person in whatever his group was, all of them died. Like, there was not a single survivor.
Insane.
Yeah.
Good thing that guy had to go play golf.
I know, man. He told me that story like multiple times. He's like, things happen for a reason. You may not know the reason that they're happening, but if it does happen, like, be thankful.
Yeah, dude, that's wild. That's like a butterfly effect kind of thing, right? It's like, had that guy never gone to play golf, you probably would have re-enlisted, gone into Korea, and died.
He would
with
have
the
died
rest
too,
of your
for
battalion.
sure.
Yeah. Wow, that's insane.
Yeah. So you never know, man. It's
everything. Like when obviously it's not nearly as bad, but when you get injuries or something, I obviously like have had my left knee banged up a few times, and you never know why it's happening. Like why me? Why did I get injured at this time? But then you always end up coming back stronger.
Yeah, I mean, like when we were starting the second gym, we kind of had like a situation where we had some instructors leave and stuff, and I was in a situation like, man, we got this other gym going, and it's like not everybody is ready for this instructor-wise to like take on a role, like we didn't even have a kids instructor over there, and then things started kind of like falling into place, and then like within 1 year, we're like already have enough students that everything's covered, and we have classes every day of the week now. So
yeah, and it's like you just staying true to the process.
Yeah.
And like obviously we've had people come, like we got Steven on the team, like getting Steven to train here and also be a coach has been huge. I mean, it's just been like a huge addition. And then like Brian stepping up and helping with the kids, and like other people stepping up and helping with the gym has been awesome. And it just goes to show, like, it might look pretty grim at the start there, but if you stay true to the process, man, you never know what can happen.
Yeah, there's always, a ton of other factors that can happen. And, just like you said, if you stay course and just do all you can do, it goes back to that what we talked earlier today, right? Like, you can only do so much, and then tomorrow's another day.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. For all the people out there, just stay consistent.
Yeah.
There's no secret. We've always said this, like Kings of Kimuras, #1 thing. Just stay consistent, stay the course, dude, and don't quit.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good way to end this podcast.
Yes, sir. So now we are quitting.
Yeah, exactly.
See you later.
So I appreciate you guys for tuning in and listening. We try to be more consistent on this. So make sure you follow us on all platforms.
And that's a wrap for today's Kings of Kimuras episode. Thanks for joining us on this epic journey. Remember to keep training, stay curious, and always be ready for the next adventure. Until next time, keep your guards up and your minds open.